Hi, this is 365801 and this is my manga wrap-up video for the Manga Freakathon hosted by Bizarre Individual, Mama Loves Manga and the Panda Post. That was held from the 19th of October to the 31st of October. So I'm going to be going through some of the books that I read and what I thought of them and what bingos I was able to get. So the first manga that I read for the Manga Freakathon was the Lychee Club by Usumaru Furuya. He is well known for writing quite dark stories, very psychological thrillers and adaptations of other works as well. I have wanted to read this. I wanted a copy for a long time. I used to live in Japan, and when I was in Japan this was coming out in Japanese, so I have actually read it in Japanese, but as my Japanese is not very good at the time, I thought there was a lot of the story that I was maybe missing out on. As it turned out, no, I pretty much read it just as it was, and I remembered most of the story, and I could feel confident that my Japanese was actually good enough that I could pick up most of the story, but there were of course a few things like the nuances of words and how it was translated that I much more appreciate in my own native language. So thank you very much to Vertical who have published this. I know that some Vertical titles are harder to get hold of, but I was able to get this for a really good price. I think it was just less than £10, so I'm very happy about having a copy finally. Now the reason I have a copy is because I did read a little bit of it in Japanese, so I knew there were, if not boys love, definitely not boys love elements, there was certainly elements of the beautiful boy aesthetic, which is something that is inherent in a lot of Japanese culture from even in shogunate era times. So the beautiful boy and the transience of that beauty and the danger of that beauty really comes across in this work. It is based on, I think, a play, and it is talked about in the back, so there's some more information about the production of that play and the impact that it had on Usumaru Furuya, who then went on to become a mangaka. So the story is, like I said, it's quite a dark story. It's very violent and aggressive, and I actually found that it was an incredibly easy read. I finished it very quickly. There's not a huge amount of dialogue. It's very much like a play or production. There's no huge great soliloquies. It's just very much action based. And so it's really fast and really easy read, but it is very disturbing, and so I knew it was going to be, and I knew I was going to need something a bit lighter afterwards, although I didn't choose that. I do recommend it. I think it's a really fascinating read, but it is definitely for adult audiences, and the boys love element that I was going for perhaps is not what most boys love fans would go for, but I actually really like that they had that element in there for the psychological aspect. It was something that I had first of all thought of in terms of reading for a paired read, and the paired read for the second read was Total Eclipse of the Eternal Heart, and that's because when I saw the artwork for Total Eclipse of the Eternal Heart by Shinde, it reminded me of the artwork of Lychee Club, and I was gratified to hear Whimsical Pictures also had made that connection as well when listening to the podcast that she does with Simply G. So I was really happy that someone else had seen these two covers and thought they had a similar theme, or perhaps it was a similar theme in terms of the setting or the time period in which it takes place, and I think that is the case. So Lychee Club It was very dark, but I really enjoyed it, and I like all the artistic flair and themes that are throughout. So this was my second read, Total Eclipse of the Eternal Heart by Shinde, and it was a paired read with the first one, Lychee Club. And I did, because it was a similar theme, similar tone, and the time period in which it's set is similar as well. So I was expecting to have another hard slog read. A lot of people had recommended it and had said that it was very difficult to read, that it was quite violent and disturbing, and nothing like Shinde's first work, Go For It Nakamura, which is also published by Seven Seas. So I was expecting something to be very, very disturbing, and I think because my expectations were so high in being disturbed, and I had just read Lychee Club, I was actually really pleasantly surprised and really enjoyed it. I really liked the aspect of the time period, the setting. I really like things that are set historically, and the characters were really interesting, and it really did move at a very fast pace. This I read in no time at all. I just ate it up really quickly. So it's a really fast read, it's really entertaining read, and there are dark elements, but it has that mystery element that makes you want to just keep on reading to the very end. And the end came, and I won't say anything about it, but it's very good. The artwork is just fabulous. It has that, I want to say Natsukashi, but old style, but also very comforting style of art that she has. I will buy any more of her work that gets published. It's very, very good. So I highly recommend Total Eclipse of the Eternal Heart. For my third read, I read The Angel of El Hamburg by Aki, and this is published by Yen Press. For the first two books, I was able to get quite a lot on the bingo board, but no actual bingos. And one of them was supposed to be an angel, but I didn't really feel like it was a proper angel, so I read this book because I knew that there was an angel in this one, and I have read it. I read it when I first bought it a few years ago, and I wanted to reread it anyway. It is absolutely stunning. I cannot rate Aki's artwork highly enough. The detail that has gone into that costume on the front cover, and in every panel in her work, is absolutely breathtaking. I love Aki's work. I want more of Aki's work to be published. She has a few things that have never been published and always go on hiatus or get dropped from magazines, and yet she's always on the front cover of the monthly magazines that she publishes in, and she does a lot of artwork for novels as well. Aki's work is just so beautiful, and her stories are always heartbreaking in a way that you don't expect them to be. So you think, oh, it's just going to be this kind of a story, and yet in a way you feel like it affects you. So even though I read Lychee Club and then Total Eclipse of the Eternal Heart, The Angel of El Hamburg always affected me, much more so. It did the first time, it certainly did the second time. For a lot longer. I needed to kind of take a break from reading and just think about the story and how sad it was. It is a bit of a sad story. It's also kind of like, well, that's just what happened, so you just have to deal with what happened. It's so beautiful, it's lovely. I'm not going to tell you too much about it, other than there is this character on the front, and he is the best friend or knight of the king, and he can see an angel that lives in the castle that they take over, and the psychological, once again it's psychological, this Freakathon is always about psychology, the psychological effect of being able to see this angel who doesn't go near him and doesn't talk to him, but he can see that it has affection for the king, affects him so greatly. It has a sense of foreboding throughout the whole of this story. It's just a 1-volume story, easy to read in one sitting, but the sense of foreboding continues and continues and continues until the end, and there's never that huge big payoff. He doesn't fall apart, and I think that might be, well, he does in a way. So he has his own moments of emotional turmoil, but he never takes that step that you think is going to happen. So if you're worried about while you're reading it, don't worry, it'll all kind of work out in the end, but you will still have this sense of loss, and loss of friendship, loss of respect, and loss of innocence, I suppose. So, The Angel of El Hamburg by Aki. Aki also writes at the moment. She, I think it's on digital, it moved to a different publication, but she is writing another story called Arrosamente. Arrosamente I absolutely adore. I think it's on volume 7, maybe it's volume 8, in Japanese. It's not translated into English, but it is an amazing story. I have the volumes, they're so beautiful, and I'm desperate to find out what happens. So hopefully Aki will continue to make beautiful work. I will buy it, whether it's in English like this wonderful hardback copy by Yen Press, or if it's in Japanese, and I will get the Japanese copies as well. So, The Angel of El Hamburg, very highly recommended. Okay, so for the next volume that I read for the Freakathon was Black Rose Alice, and it's only a volume 1 because I only have volume 1. I managed to get this for about £2 in Waterston. They were having a sale, and I was just like, oh, I know this story, because once again, when I was in Japan, this was being released in Japanese, and I got a copy in Japanese. So once again, it's kind of, I've already read and I know what the story is about. Mainly because the story and art is by Setona Mizushiro, and I really, really, really love her BL work that will be published very soon. So in preparation for that work, which will come out in November, I think, the first volume, I wanted to read some Setona Mizushiro's work. So I read this one knowing that they're full well that I would be getting a vampire in it. So it is a vampire story. It's a story that starts off being set in, I think it's Austria, probably at the time of the height of opera and lots of counts and dukes and countesses and people who are very well to do, and the main person on the cover, the main male character, he's taken in by a very well to do aristocratic family and falls in love with the female on the female on the cover, and unfortunately does not get her, but finds a way. Anyway, it's very dark, there's lots of insects in it, so if you don't like insects, steer clear of this one, because I really don't like spiders. I don't mind other insects, but I hate spiders, and there's some very detailed and very good drawings of spiders in here, which makes me feel very uncomfortable. So there were bugs aplenty in this one. It was in preparation of what's to come, and I'm really looking forward to the next one. I do like the story, it's very entertaining, and I think I would like to get the rest of the series so I can actually finish it, because I only read, I think, 2 or 3 volumes in Japanese, so I don't know how it ends, but it is very well drawn and the story is engaging. The next volume that I read for this Manga Freakathon was Rust Blaster by Yana Toboso, who is the well-known author of Black Butler, or Kuro Shitsuji in Japanese. That has been a long-running series. This is by Yen Press as well, and it's one of the first volumes that she produced. She has a second volume in Japanese that has not been published in English, and I doubt that it ever will be because it does have shota content in it, a series of one-shots, BL, and that's how she started out. And this is her first non-BL attempt of Rust Blaster. And then afterwards she went into Kuroshitsushi, a Black Butler, and it's been a very long-running series now. So, Rust Blaster, very much in the theme of Manga Freakathon. Lots of vampires and a different kind of race with Dampir, I don't know how to say it, it's like the cross between humans and vampires, and lots of great character designs, and that's how this felt as I was reading it. There is a story, it's paper thin, but the drawings are beautiful, the character designs are beautiful, and it really does feel like a slightly more gothic character design, like in Sentient Stage of Black Butler. So her drawings are always beautiful. I was lucky enough to go to a special exhibition when I was in Japan of Yana Toboso's work, and found out that she's like a year or two younger than me, which made me feel very inadequate, which is always nice, but it was a wonderful experience. There was a very big sort of, it's a little bit odd to describe, but these exhibition spaces are sometimes in department stores. So in Japan they have these very large department stores that are sometimes attached to train stations, and they will have these exhibition spaces, and they have them in various different cities, and the one I went to for Yana Toboso was in Osaka, and I went to the exhibition space, and it's wonderful. It has almost like an exhibition of just her life work, really. It had a timeline of the works that she's produced, and original content, and different drawings that she'd done, and different artwork, and character goods at the end as well. So it was really fun to go and see all of the work that she produced in this really great exhibition. I've gone to see some other exhibitions as well, but this one was a really fun one, and lots of people who went, lots of Japanese people, were really excited to see some foreign visitors as well who were aware of Yana Toboso and her work. So it does still hold a little special place because it has a memory of Japan as well. Rust Blaster is fairly throwawayable in terms of the actual story, but very beautiful to look at, as you would expect from Yana Toboso. Now this is the volume 3 of The World's Greatest First Love. I do have all the volumes that are published. This one is the case of Ritsuno Dera by Shungiku Nakamura. This is published by Sublime, the Sublime imprint. And I do have all of them, but I don't all have them in the same place. So half my collection is elsewhere and half of it's in the house I'm in just now. So I picked up volume 3 because I also know that the greatest villain was in this one, and I wanted a little bit of fluff after all of the dark stories and dark themes from the manga I'd read so far. So this was a bit of pure BL, we might call it, the pure BL fluff that is very enjoyable. The World's Greatest First Love is something that I have collected in Japanese as well, and I'm a huge fan of Shungiku Nakamura. I know a lot of people don't particularly like Junjo Romantica, and they'd much prefer The World's Greatest First Love. Hey, horses for courses, whatever, doesn't really matter. I'm a big fan of Shungiku Nakamura anyway, and I'm going to be putting out another video as well, showing some of my collectibles, some of the character goods and things that I've collected. I've been collecting for a few years. So if you have followed me for a few years on Twitter, you'll have seen some of my previous posts and unboxings, but I've never actually made any videos of it. So I do perhaps think that I might actually make an unboxing video, because I've just received a very large purchase from Japan, very large box, and it will have lots of Shungiku Nakamura World's Greatest First Love character goods in it. So this is volume 3, and the only reason I really wanted it is because I was kind of looking for a bit of the greatest villain, and my greatest villain, I think, in BL is always the one that gets in the way. And sometimes that can be, and is usually a female character who tries to get with one of the other male characters, but is occasionally a male character. And the sweetest and loveliest is Yokozawa. Yokozawa is very good friends with Takano, the seme in this character pairing, and he gets particularly heartbroken, and it is really quite heartbreaking to watch the anime or to read when he gets told. And this, I think, happens in volume 4, but he gets kind of a bit more, his position gets ramped up a bit in volume 3. So I wanted to read that for the greatest villain. It holds such a dear place in my heart. When I was in Japan, once again I'm mentioning Japan, there was the movie version of Yokozawa, and I went to the cinema every single week, and occasionally 2 or 3 times a week. So I think over the course of about a month and a half when it was showing in the cinema, I went probably around 30 times, probably overall about once a day it would be averaging out. I spent a lot of money going to the cinema to watch this. I just felt it was such an amazing experience to be able to watch a BL anime in the cinema live. And by that point in time my Japanese language was good enough that I could understand, and of course I had read in Japanese the manga, so I could mostly understand what some of the things that had been translated or had been I should say transcribed into anime. But it was a new story, a lot of it was a new story, so I could over the course of the month get to know what the story was about. Oh, he's saying this here, and what's this word, and I'll try and remember that when I come out and try and look up in the dictionary. But generally I could work it out, and my Japanese was good enough that I could understand. And so my cinema going experience was not only enjoyable because I was watching BL in the cinema, I was able to feel as though I was making strides in my Japanese language ability as well. So the world's greatest first love always has a dear place in my heart. So hopefully there'll be a video coming soon. This is Your Love Sickness by Hayate Kuku, and I read this one, and I also read 2 digital volumes of her work. This Your Love Sickness was a series of short stories, and the 2 on the front cover are fox gods, and their story was the main one, so it covered 2 of the chapters and an extra at the end. And it was dead sweet, very lovely. The chibi versions of them are just to die for. Just so soft and squishy, and you just want to eat them with a spoon. They're just so cute. And her drawings are always really interesting and very masculine, but also very hot, sexy, and sweet as well. And that was quite a surprise for the other volumes that I read, which were Storm and Mist, Volume 1 and Volume 2. That are digital copies from Sublime. So this was a June title, and the ones I read on digitally, Sword and Mist, were the Sublime titles. And the reason I read it was because I had originally purchased Sword and Mist Volume 1, but as part of the 801 day in August, the 1st of August, Sublime were having some special competitions, and I entered them, and I was able to get, because I do not live in America, I was able to get a digital copy, and so I was able to choose one, and I chose Volume 2 so that I could sit and read the 2-volume series, because Sword and Mist is only a 2-volume series as well. And I really enjoyed Sword and Mist. I mean, I liked Your Love Sickness because it was lots of little stories, so that was really good. to have a bit of variety. But Sword and Mist over 2 volume, I really do like it because it's just 2 volumes, but it's follows the same 2 characters, and that story was very hot and sexy. I really enjoyed that one. That was really nice. And it also had that element of shinobi, like ninjas and the different costumes. It really had the feel of Japan at the time, so I really liked the setting, the time period, and the character designs as well. So I really liked Sword and Mist, the 2 volumes, and Your Lovesickness as well. It was very good. So Hayate Kuku's work I do recommend if you are a BL aficionado. Give it a go. Now at this stage in the manga Freakathon, I was really looking for a witch and a zombie. These were the 2 that I was really looking for. I did not find a witch or a zombie in Yokai's Hunger by Now no Bora. And this is a Kitty Media volume. But what I did find was lots of oyaji. I love an oyaji, or older gentleman, sort of middle-aged to late middle-age gentleman seems to be what Now no Bora enjoys a lot, and she likes to draw them usually as the uke, if I'm being honest. They are usually, that's what she's into, that's what she likes. I'm okay with it. Her lines, her artwork, it has very dark heavy lines and thick heavy lines, and especially around the eyes and eyebrows. This is just her style. I think when I was first introduced to her work I was a bit put off by it, but now I'm much more open to it. I'm kind of like, yeah, that's fine. And this was very appropriate. Yokai's Hunger, as we know yokai means, it's a kind of demon or spirit or some sort of, it's a Japanese creature, a mythical type. So Yokai's Hunger, it's about a young high schooler who has a scar, and he seems to attract demons and other spirits and things like that, so I suppose yokai at this point. And he ends up meeting Noma, I think his name is, and he is the oyaji in this case, but he is a sort of demon from, or a god. I'm not entirely sure exactly. I think they were supposed to be demons and they were fighting gods. The story is a little wayward. It kind of bounces about all over the place, but basically these 2 have been sort of promised to each other since many years ago, and he has been reincarnated from the soul of the person that promised his soul to this demon, and so they have this connection, and it just happens to be that they, for some strange and inexplicable reason, have to be intimate with one another for this connection to be maintained and for him to be safe from demons. Oh, what a coincidence. These are the kinds of stories that BL is made of. This is kind of like a typical BL, but with the sort of yokai slant, which, hey, I love. It's great. I really enjoyed this actually, and what I really enjoyed was the other characters. So Noma has lots of siblings. Is his name Noma? I hope it is Noma. He has lots of siblings. They're all oyaji as well. And my favourite was the snake. He just seemed so funny. I don't know what it is about snake demons in anime and manga. So for example, what is it? Kami-sama Hajimemashite. The snake character in that I love as well. So I don't know, the sort of characteristics of anthropomorphic snakes are really funny. And this was entertaining. I really enjoyed reading it. It was really quick and easy to read. Like I said, it's a Kitty Media one, so I don't think it's as easy to get hold of as it would have been in the past. But yeah, it's really fun. So if you like Now no Bora, definitely try and get this one. It's fun read. I also read The Devil's Secret by Hinako Takanaga, who is of course most famous for The Tyrant Falls in Love. series, which is also quite difficult to get hold of. This is an 801 publication, so once again it's a little bit more difficult to get hold of, just because they're not really publishing anything just now, so out of print. You can get them for deals if you just hold out or have a look on eBay and things like that. So The Devil's Secret has a series of like short story, but they all do kind of connect. The main story is about this priest and this, I guess he's an incubus, and he doesn't really know that he is. He grows horns and a tail and gets kicked out of his house. It's a bit odd, and ends up going to a priest because that's what incubuses do. And then his older brother comes down and tries to bring him back to, I'm guessing, like, devil land. He takes him up rather than down, so it's not like they're going to hell or anything. This is, well, it's BL, so don't ask too many questions. I think it should be on a t-shirt. It's BL, don't ask too many questions. The Devil's Secret. I don't know what the secret's supposed to be. This is fluff. This is fluff at its most inconsequential. Which is great fun to read, and I loved it, as I usually do. Because the artwork's quite nice. It's very silly. I at least like it when the character that usually plays, like the Uke character, actually ends up being quite happy to have a sexual relationship. I much prefer it when they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, I like this. Rather than always constantly, no, no, no! So eventually that becomes something like, yeah, we're just in this relationship, cool. So, The Devil's Secret, it's fluff, it's easy to read, there's nothing great, you know, in depth, there's no emotional impact in any way, shape or form, but a good read nevertheless. But no zombies and no witches, so still those were the two that I didn't have. So in my quest for witches and zombies, I chose the Wise Beasts of the Wizarding Wisdoms, story and art by Nagabe, and this is also 7th Seas title, and this is the latest one that I had purchased, and I bought it in Waterstones, which is kind of somewhere that I don't usually buy things from unless they're on sale, because I really don't like spending money in shops and buying things at full price if I can get them for a deal. So even if, you know, Waterstones were doing, you know, 3 for 2, I would go for it, but they very rarely do. So you have to like sign up for their spend £10, get a point kind of system and get one of those cards, and I don't have one, so I didn't bother. But I did have a book token, so I saw this and thought, why not? So were there any witches or zombies? There were no zombies, and witches, I wasn't really convinced that they were witches because it's a wizarding school. There were female characters, especially with the bird story, but would they be called witches if it's a wizarding school? So I don't know, they didn't ever mention it, so I thought, oh well, it was an enjoyable read enough, but it didn't help me with any bingos. What this is very much a series of short stories, animal or anthropomorphic characters in the boarding school or in the wizarding school, and they are sort of blossoming relationships and romances. They were all quite dark. The artwork is quite dark, very fine and detailed drawings. I can't say it was all that exciting, but some of the stories were interesting and it was very easy to read, so enjoyable enough. But I can't say it was like groundbreaking or anything, but definitely something that if you like Nagabe's other work, you'll probably really enjoy this. And the fact that they're choosing to publish BL work by other authors is really fantastic, so thank you 7th Seas. More of this. I'm always going to take any BL that's going, and some of the stories were fun, I did like the ones with the bats, they were funny. And the one with the bear and the human just seemed so slow and sort of easygoing. But with the house, I would have loved to have lived in that house, so I'm not really taking it for any great BL. There wasn't a lot of BL in it, to be honest. The story that really stuck with me was probably because I've been reading lots of psychological ones before this manga Freakathon, was the story of, I think it was like a crow and a peacock. It was a peacock and some sort of black bird anyway, and I think it was some sort of crow. And that one was probably the one that stuck with me the most. I wouldn't have said I enjoyed it because it didn't have the sort of fluffy BL elements that I like. The rabbit and the cat on the front had very fluffy BL, and that was the first story. But the one with the birds, I really liked because it had that sort of dangerous element of someone who is duplicitous because of their obsession for someone else. And so actually what I thought when I was reading this is, it's lovely that they're animals and it's sweet and cute and it gives that sort of sense of innocence or lack of humanity. It just felt that these stories could have been told without the animal ears. There was no need for Neko Mimi. There was no need for these to be animals in any way, other than really the peacock one and the vampire bat one, because that really kind of came into it. But actually a lot of the stories, they could have just been humans. And the peacock and the crow one felt the most interesting and the most dangerous, and that's why it was the most enjoyable to read. Because if they were humans, you would be like, oh dude, get away from that crow. Even if you're a beautiful peacock, you know, you gotta take care of yourself. But I really loved the crow, and I loved the fact that the crow was just such a duplicitous being. Oh, but that's what I liked about it. So the wise beast of the wizard and wizdoms was not exactly what I expected, but it was very much worth reading. I'm not too sure what my reread will be of it. I'll see. Maybe give it a few months and I might want to read it again. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. So at this point it was nearing the end, it was almost the 31st, and I was in desperate need of a witch and a zombie, and I wanted to read something that I really wanted to sit and read. I do have a witch in another series, but I was kind of saving that for some other time when I really wanted to read it. So I just picked up volume 8 because I have a couple of random volumes. I think this is the Del Rey version, maybe Tanoshimi, the Tanoshimi version of xxxHolic by Clamp, and this is a volume 8. I think I have a volume 9 that I randomly read for a different readathon a few years ago, maybe about 3 years ago. And I've read this previously, I just don't actually own a copy of it, so I'd like to have some more Clamp in my collection. I have some Tsubasa, so I could have read some Tsubasa instead, but I just wanted a quick, yes, I've got a witch. And of course Yuko-san is a witch. She's a very special kind of witch. She deals with time and space, a dimensional witch, and her relationship with Watanuki Kimihiro is just so lovely. I love their dynamic, I love the artwork. Out of all of the Clamp series, I think I like xxxHolic the best because of the sort of folklore element, the art style, the psychology of the characters, and also because Domeki's in it, and Domeki and Watanuki together, don't tell me they're not OTP. They're OTP. They're 100% OTP. In my mind, OTP. Domeki is fabulous. I love Domeki. He's so great as a character, and when you watch the anime, the voice actor does a really great job of his tone and sort of disinterestedness. And Watanuki, I think Jun Fukuyama plays Watanuki in the anime as well. So I love watching anime, and I have read the manga, but I don't actually own a copy, so I would like to get xxXHolic. It was one of the first clamp ones that I saw that I could actually purchase. Originally I had wanted to card capture Sakura, but that was unavailable when I first wanted it. So I'd like to collect this and collect more of it and sit and read through it in its entirety. So that's on my to purchase list. It also meant that I only had one square left, which was zombie, and I was a bit unfortunate about that. But yes, I got my witch with xxXHolic. So I have all of the titles in print that I was able to read, but there were a few other titles that I read in digital format, and that is The Night Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window, which is an absolutely amazing series. It's published by Sublime. There's volume 1 to 6, as I said, and volume 6 just came out, so I was very excited and wanted to reread volumes 1 through 5 so that I could sit and read brand new, freshly uploaded onto the website, volume 6 of The Night Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window. I absolutely adore the series by Tomoko Yamashita. She's just beautiful artworks, really interesting characters. I was on about it on Twitter, and I will go on and on about it again. It's just so good. Please, please, please go out and get it. I'm sure Sublime will be happy if you do, but read it and let me know what you think, because it seems like it's an underrated story, and yet anyone who actually mentions it, they say that they love it as well. So if they've read it, they really like it. I like Tomoko Yamashita's work anyway, but I just seem to love that story. In that story there were lots of things that helped me to fill in the bingo, but there were a few characters that could have been described as zombies, and I was a bit like, they're not a true zombie, so I didn't tick it off. And yet afterwards I thought, you could have just ticked that off, that was kind of a zombie. So I felt like I could have got zombie in a few things, but I just chose not to because I was very strict about what constituted a zombie. And so I did search for another title and found this webtoon called The Zombie Prince, which was pretty pants. It was pretty bad, and the dialogue was awful. It was very much OEL, like originally English language, and I don't want to be disparaging about OEL, but I'm probably going to be disparaging about OEL. Yeah, so it definitely had that feel of OEL, webtoon, not great dialogue, but there was a zombie in it. So over the course of the 19th of October to the 31st of October, I did get a zombie, and I got everything, but I didn't feel like I got a true zombie. And I do know that there is a BL in Japanese that does have a zombie in it. There's a sort of zombie apocalypse, and these two people have to get try and save each other, and they get trapped somewhere, and they end up, of course, having some sort of relationship during a zombie apocalypse. Of course, there is a BL version of everything, so I had hoped that I would find more appropriate zombies, but in my quest for it to be as BL-esque as possible, or BL adjacent, I did not find a true zombie. Although in The Night Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window there is people who are possessed, or who have, I think there's a dead body that is possessed, and so technically they're still alive, but only when the spirit's in them. So I was very particular about what constituted zombie. So this is my roundup for the Manga Freakathon. I really enjoyed it. I'm very grateful to Bizarre Individual, Mama Loves Manga, and is it Manga Post, for hosting this readathon, for making it a good chunk in terms of time so I could get through quite a lot, and I'm really grateful for everyone who engaged with me on Twitter and made the experience really fun. I just really liked chatting with people and talking about the different things that I was reading, and it's a really good selection. I've really enjoyed all of the things, and it's really good to be able to say I went through a big chunk of my TBR, which is ridiculous. It's huge. So thank you for sticking to the end. Thank you for listening. Thanks for watching, and thanks for following me along on Twitter as well. I hope that I'll do some more manga readathons soon.